Hello and welcome to Andy's Radio Review. We are reviewing the HDI Audio Portable AM FM radio that I recently was able to get on sale $6 on Amazon.com. With Prime shipping, it took about 2 to 3 days to come. This radio was also findable on eBay for a good price if you can look for the fast and free shipping option. So I will try to have a link shortener in the description below, and if you were interested, you can always try to find this radio for yourself. So this is the box that came with it, and now I'm going to show you the radio itself. So holding it in my hand, it's a very big radio. This is, in a sense, pocket size. Do have a couple pajamas with pockets, and this thing barely even fits. And for size comparison, for an example, this is much bigger than my ICF P100, which any day of the week for AMDXing, I prefer that over this, as you'll see in the video coming up later on tonight when I try to I guess pick up a couple stations. I've had very bad luck on the AM feed so far, but it's hit or miss if you really get lucky. So, a couple of the features with the radio, just like the Reticus has a DSP Tuner. On the box, it doesn't even mention anything about a DSP tuner. This does have DSP tuning. So, the Reticus does a good job on FM. I mean, it is weaker for a small radio, but this radio on FM surprises me a lot. I talk about surprises. I am able to pick up more stations in my area that are very distant and fringe than I'm able to with the ICF P100, the TIV-DO, which is now Reticus radio, which surprisingly Reticus took over that company, but I still have the TIV-DO name on that radio, which I barely even use anymore because it's such a battery drainer and I really don't recommend it. That's why I prefer my Reticus for the weather band. And surprisingly, the TIV-DO does pick up weather band, but it's very weak. However, this is not weather band. I'll just mention that. But for FM, I'll just mention this thing is completely amazing. It has a very strong FM tuner. You're able to pick up so many distant stations. For an example, as I keep mentioning, I am 10 miles away from the broadcast towers of the Empire State Building in Midtown Manhattan. So, this does the job very well for locals. I was just listening to a local just now. The only negative is the speaker. The speaker's okay, but I just don't like how the sound is. I wish it had more bass. The treble was good. It's just that the bass is not really what it's all cracked up to be. As you'll hear in the non-copyright test in a second, it's not really the best quality speaker in terms of music. I mean, it's okay for music. It's not the best. I mean, yeah, you could try the Sony ICF P100, but here's the problem. Even with a few local stations, the tuner really doesn't do the job it's supposed to. And I'll try to fiddle around with it off camera, but I'm just not happy with it when it comes to station reception. Now, if you're listening to, I guess, music that has more bass, then I'm sure there may have to be a better quality radio on the market. Maybe somebody could tell me for a pocket in the description below. But I will have to continue doing research on this topic, because I'm not giving up till I find, obviously, the best FM type receiver when it comes to bass. So, for an example, I'm able to pick up about 2 stations that normally come in very fringe on other receivers. For an example, the ICF, my CFD S3550, for an example, this trusty boombox that I heavily use a lot for AMDXing, this really doesn't do a good job. Even before the antenna broke, I mean, it was hit or miss with the FM reception. This little thing, however, for an example, I'll just name two stations. 100.7 WHUD in Peekskill, New York, and 107.9 WEBE-FM. Two very good quality adult contemporary stations that I like very much. They come in very superb on this radio. I'm even able to pick up a classic rock station, 107.1 from Westchester. Comes in pretty well. It doesn't come in the best, but I can hear music whenever I try to pick it up. The best spot for my room is my little Fordo cooler that I use in the spring and summer months, which reminds me, gotta get it ready by May, and I'll start to use it again. But that part of the room, it's amazing. And hopefully I'll try to pick up a couple Long Island stations. Now, 98.3 KJOY, I'm about 10-15 miles away from the broadcast tower in Hempstead. That really is not considered a distant station. My honest opinion of a distant station, if you're about maybe 25 to 40 miles away from a broadcast tower, that's considered a fringe station. So, for an example, 107.9. For a station that comes in end of the dial, it comes in very well. Very well. I basically hear no static when there's music, but when there's a commercial or when there's a DJ speaking, I notice there is some static. Now, quickly, I'm going to play you a clip that I took from 107.9, and I want you to hear how staticky it sounds. So as you can clearly tell before the music played, didn't come in very well in terms of somebody talking. Like, if somebody's talking, like they're just introducing music, you know, it's not really going to sound the best from a distant station. But when you hear the music, it barely any static. The music just overpowers it for some odd reason. So, I will give a warning. This radio is made from China, just like the Redicus. But, you know, don't just assume a Chinese-made radio is not the best. I mean, yes, Magnavox has made quality radios before in Tennessee, long time ago. But those things, those classic radios take 4 AA batteries, for an example. This takes 2, to give you an example. The Redicus, the PR15, 2 AAAs, but good quality radio. I mean, you look it up on YouTube, it's amazing. The Sony ICF, I believe it's from Japan. Because Sony is a Japanese company, but for technology, HDI is just an upstart company. You got to give them credit for a company from China that I guess somehow knew how to build a good FM tuner, but as far as AM, not the best on DXing. But I will give a strong disclaimer. AM, the locals sound amazing. I am able to pick up all my AM locals. WFAN has a weird eerie noise on AM, but somehow this drowns it out compared to my Sony ICF. The Sony ICF somehow just makes a weird noise on AM, but FM, AM locals sound fantastic. I'll just mention that. So, we'll do the sound test right now. I'm going to tune the radio to 93.9 FM. I already had done so before we started. Now, the switch for the radio is right here. Very quickly, let's just take a look at the antenna. I'll try to get it up for you. I have an idea. Let me try to use my left hand for an example, so you'll just see my pajama for a second. So, yeah, this is how far the antenna goes. It's pretty amazing. And excuse the mess over here, but we try to work with what we have. So this is the radio facing up. I better mention. Kind of reminds me of another Sony radio that's designed just like this. But again, when you look at Sony, much smaller radio, but when you hold it in the hand, it's just... I mean, this literally compares to the Magnavox radios that were made in the 90s. Maybe a bit heavier. I've seen a couple of videos on them. I mean, maybe one day I hope to get a Magnavox, but they're around for $20-30. I'd pay it if I really want to experiment. Okay, so let's see. 93.9 FM. Have it low, for an example.
His original copy of the Columbian Orator. And they let me sit at his desk, put on...
So to obviously avoid copyright, we're listening to our NPR station. Well,
my own hands. It was like...
we do have technically two NPR stations in New York City. This is 93.9 FM.
We'll continue the conversation with David Blight about his book, Frederick Douglass, Prophet of Freedom. Coming up, we learn how Frederick Bailey escaped from Maryland and made his way to an area now known as Tribeca. And we'll hear how he and his wife, Anna, became the Douglasses after the break.
Support for WNYC comes from Geico, offering local insurance for cars, trucks, SUVs, and more. Available at Geico.com.
Now, obviously, again, for FM... when you're listening to an FM local station for talk, like NPR for an example, it's very tolerable. Now, normally for this, I listen to 101.9 FM, which is the FM simulcast of 660 AM WFAN Sports Radio. When I listen to WFAN, honestly, this is just personal preference. I just prefer the Reticus more than even my Sony, for an example. But the Sony I use more for DXing lately. Yeah, you can hear NPR very clearly. So, what we're going to do right now is go to my computer. As you can see here, here's my computer. Here's my FM transmitter. Somehow I lost the AC power, so right now it's set to 94.5. You can't see it right now, but let me try to get it on right now. And I'll try to lower it, because sometimes when you try to play it, it doesn't really help. Okay, so let's try to tune into 94.5, Randomness Radio. You can barely even hear the bass. Is that rolling a bit? Sometimes on station, you don't have to fiddle around with tuner, but for the local stations, first time around it does come in pretty well. My station, since it's weak, it's not really a good example. There we go. Making my radio a little bit louder. See, no good bass. That's the problem with this radio. It's the only dislike I have with this radio. Besides not good for AM DXing. But everything else is fine. Oh, the headphone jack really isn't that good either. There's a disclaimer on that as well. Save yourself the hassle for that and just get the Reticus in my book.
Do you feel the buzz or is it just me? Trust me, something in the air just above me. Something like a dream state, you call it a clean break. Do you feel the buzz, man?
Here comes the bass.
Do you feel the
Future 105.9 WQXR Radio in New York City. Alright, so that was the FM test. You know, again, for what I've noticed so far, what is up with my FM transmitter, number one? But second, again, not that much good quality bass. And that's the problem with this radio I'm having so far. Well, coming up next, we're going to find out how this thing does on AM. Because again, FM, very good. AM locals, very good on both ends. But AM distant stations, different story. So coming up next, let's see how that ends up. Alright, let's see what we can pick up on the AM dial with this radio. Now again, this is a DSP tuner like I mentioned in the beginning of the video. I know the FM reception is very well. I'm able to pick up more stations than I can even with the CFD S3550, more than the Redicus, and more with the Sony. So let's see what this thing can do on AM. So I have my trusty old AM receiver right here. Let's see what happens when we can pick up on the AM dial. Okay. Put AM on. And there's the AM. See what we can pick up. Like I figured, we're on AM 530. Something's trying to come in on AM 540. Let's see if we can get AM 550, which is WGR Sports Radio, Buffalo, New York. Yeah, I hear something on this. Yeah. Something's trying to come in on 540. Let's try to get it on here. Yeah, it's trying to pick it up.
Is sponsored by Teachers Federal Credit Union. The credit union for you.
Oh, have WMCA AM 570 on here. We have a local on here. It's WMCA AM 570.
The official hospital and doctors of St. John's Athletics. Now, let's go back to the voice of the Red Storm, Sean Minko.
Ah, good to hear the Make Man.
Here at Carter Sector, St. John's in DePaul, and here are your starting lineups. First of all, for St. John's,
Station.
Julian Chanpenny and Josh Roberts, and in the backcourt, Rashim Dunn Pasha. This is coached by DePaul.
So very sensitive DSP tuner.
Utrzymywać system, pozostać w domu w przypadku choroby, myć ręce i poddawać się testom. Jeśli kwalifikujesz się do szczepienia, przyjmij szczepionkę na ochronę przed COVID-19. Aby dowiedzieć się więcej, odwiedź stronę nc.gov/COVID-vaccine.
Darius Hall and the
couldn't use this as a PR thing. And I wanted to ask you about that.
AM 600.
Former Secretary of Energy, just a great guy. Although great guy that's doing a good job. At the end of the day,
So this radio does have a hard time trying to get signal long distance. This is AM 600. Could be from Hartford, Connecticut. Not too sure. There's AM 620.
easier to maneuver than a broom or a vacuum. You're right. Now I can focus on you, not your shedding. Swiffer Sweeper Pet Kit. Because shed happens.
Mark Malusis from WFAN here. Ramsey
WFAN.
Mazda knows the other brands just don't bring the excitement like a Mazda. Shop
660.
Ramsey Mazda during the President's Day event and lease a new 2021 Mazda CX-5 Sport all-wheel drive for just $199.
I'll hold this for a second. I've actually had pretty good luck recently picking up AM 780 WBBM with this radio. If you can get past WABC at night, it actually comes in, you can hear something on it. So WLW barely comes in. I'm trying to pick it up on here.
The great thing about fax that, you know, the New York State.
Yeah, see? I'm moving it around. Maybe pick up WLW. Yeah, this actually does a pretty decent job. I hear something. Listen. Could be WLW from Cincinnati, Ohio. AM 700. One of the oldest radio stations in the country. I also know on my Sony, I've been actually having good luck picking up a station from Detroit, Michigan lately. On AM 760. I forget the code letters at the moment.
Mentioned over and over again, Jason, on the show. These types of increases have serious effects on our state's economy.
So that's WOR. AM 710. And I will note that on AM locals, this does a pretty good job. If you have a good station in local distance, highly recommend this radio. Highly do, like I mentioned in the beginning. But for DXing so far, save yourself the hassle and just get the Sony ICF P26. Because you're going to thank yourself if you get the ICF P26 or any other quality radio for $50. But I will recommend, or even get a Sangean. Sangean does an okay job, but nothing like the Sony ICF. Yeah, an idea. Let me try 740. Zoomer Radio from Canada. New station I just discovered when I've been DXing lately.
Ability to hire new. Attractive for insurance companies. Construction and development or premiums.
Yeah, I hear something on my end, but
You will continue and premiums go up.
now that's WABC. And I can prove that as WABC. Let me lower it, because again, I'm going to get copyright claim. WABC is having a hard time trying to get through the station I want from Toronto, which is AM 740. But again, your AM locals come in 100%. Especially because I'm literally 10 miles away from the Empire State Building, so that's why I can pick up my stations clearly well. And I know in the future, I'm going to see if I can go 30, 40 miles at least away from the signal tower out in Long Island. Like, I'll do testing with this radio in the future, but...
On 710 WO.
See, you have WOR clinging on. So AM 740 is trying to come in, but it just can't. Hang on, it's finally coming in. Better back away from it. Well, look at that. Finally coming in. Look. AM 740 from Toronto. Coming in pretty decent. Let's go up the dial.
Green. There you go. Hey, this is your cousin Rishi. That's all right. Let that go home. I got a request here from our cousin Rishi Facebook page here. I love your face, cousin Philip. This is from Philip Hollander, by the way. And he says,
yes, folks, you are hearing this correctly. Cousin Brucey Morrow on 77 WABC, the legendary WABC. I'm sure you're aware by now, Bruce Morrow left Sirius XM to go back to his original roots, and now he hosts a show on Saturday night. So we're filming on February 21st, 2021. I'm so excited. I'm sorry. I'm shaking the camera because, like, I never thought I would be recording when cousin Brucey Morrow would be on. The legendary Brucey Morrow. But I'm actually stoked. Radio in 2021, right? Yeah, I mean, if I left this market in the country, I'd be devastated. Yeah, the hassle is you gotta be careful with your AM locals, because one minute you'll get it'll come in and out. Anyhow, let me go back to what we want to do and go back. So, AM 780, which is WBBM. I've actually had some good luck picking it up recently. I have an audio file I'm going to post of my recordings in the future on a cassette tape. And I'm currently working on with this CFDS 3550. So we'll just forget about that one. Oh, I want to skip this one. Sports. Sounds French. Let's see if we can pick up CHML from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I don't know how many I'm going to pick it up.
Stop bland. And all trainer dribbling out feet, trailing 93 to 50 inside 3 minutes. No, not a turnover almost, but it's recovered by Slozinski out near midcourt with 12 on the shot clock.
The audience saw what came to be known as Bloody Sunday. Well, after...
So in the middle of the night, this guy decided, I got a solution.
Listen spoke, laying out all the...
40 meters built over...
Folks, I am pleased to show you AM 900 CHML coming in. Coming in. Listen.
With everything as they pass through.
pay a bulldozer operator to come in and remove all the speed bumps because
literally a wonder for what I got. $6 does wonders. You get close, it interferes, but if you zoom out, actually comes in pretty well. Okay, so what I'm gonna do right now, for a safe bet, I'm gonna go up to AM 1030, which normally comes in pretty well in my area, which is WBZ from Boston.
So you must have done something wrong or had a name that was coming up bad or something. Anyway,
let me see if I can pick it up.
This guy couldn't get a handgun permit. You know, as good as Sandra is offensively, aside from a passing flurry, much quieter.
When I was first doing the show and we first started talking about trust, and I always...
There we go, folks. AM 1030.
You were explaining it to me. It was like
from
really nice,
Boston, Massachusetts, which
people have
they are a real news talk station. They do talk shows, and they do news programs. And I've noticed this when I've played around with the Redicus. Which, even for a DSP tuner, the Redicus does a way better job than, this. But listen, AM 1030 sounds pretty good, all the way from Boston.
I can't have things ambiguous. All right, well, we've got more coming up, and again, I'm so glad that you're able to hang out with us a little bit on the weekends. I'm Joni Ciani with Paul and Larry Welch, and we will be back right after this.
Yeah, see, the CFD does a better job picking it up.
93 Financial Group today at 800-908-9334.
So I'm going to try to pick up AM 1080 WTIC from Connecticut.
You can find it in your value section at the last black blockbuster.
Well, I guess I was somewhat wrong. If you do pack a lot of patience, this is not a bad AMDXing machine. But again, nothing ever will top the boombox. Nothing ever will.
What sides come with this? Oh, none. This is a steakhouse. You want sides? Here's some.
But hey, I'm doing pretty well so far. I guess it's the lower band that has an issue with the DXing. Alright, let me try WBAL.
You are, and it sounds like 6.9 FM and the free iHeart policy that changes the country, whether it's good or bad for the nation. And debate.
Here we go. WBAL AM 1090 from Baltimore,
8 to 11. Mistrust
Maryland.
Expect more. WBAL News Radio 1090, FM 101.5, and the WBAL radio app. WBAL News Radio 1090, FM 101.5, and the WBAL app.
You heard WBAL. Obviously coming through.
More to know. Sponsored by Oxford Gold Group. Call 833-600-GOLD to secure your retirement.
Headlines. This is great news. 5-year-old girl. Remember that young girl that was hit by Britt Reed, coach with the Chiefs, now ex-coach? She has woken up after 2 weeks in a coma. She was hit by a trusted Jewish independent agency, ACM Solutions in Charlotte.
You know why? I will explain why in just a second.
The NFL doesn't care, he said. Let's listen.
My NFL brothers continue.
Hang on here a sec, folks.
Think about it. I talked to another brother. He spent the weekend in a psych ward. The NFL just doesn't care. They write condolence letters and
like that. But if they were invested, they'd actually put some money behind the Legends community and take the mental health substance abuse out of it.
WTAM's having an issue coming in tonight. I don't know what's going on with it.
Of course, he's one of the biggest busts in the history of the NFL.
Into the world of the man's monsters, scripted podcast, starring
And you're health at an all-time high.
Alright, so this is AM 1110 from North Carolina. Station comes in pretty well at night.
Live coverage of Carolina basketball continues after this.
Duke Energy is honored to recognize 2020 social justice and racial equity grantee, Tennessee Community
Yeah, WTAM's having an issue tonight because 1090's coming in pretty well. So let me go up the dial and see if I can pick up AM 1500 WFED radio from Washington.
In North Carolina. Visit duke-energy.com/website.
Our series is produced by the University, George Washington University,
Hermano, eso espero puede decir también. Aunque venga lo que venga.
These are all really great questions to ask yourself to understand what we I don't have a ton of time.
Hermano, yo le he hablado en esta vida.
For more Lenten hacks, we have something.
Hey, it's Bowerly. Are you one of those people who hops online every few...
AM 1560 used to be a big station here in New York.
SIBO from Rosex vacuums as I did, and you'll get better performance, much longer life, ease of use, and exceptional warranty, and it's even good for the environment. German-made SIBOs have reasonably priced parts and long-term support. China doesn't care how many vacuums we put on our landfills. There are approximately 26 million vacuums sold in the United States every year. Most of them are designed to last just a couple of years. It's a lot of good, but a SIBO
So, one more try and I'm on the station of... Yep. AM 1540 from Iowa. Yeah, it won't even come in. This one won't even do the job. Alright. So, final thoughts on this. And again, Todderbert with the inspiration why you need to another receiver to test the legitimacy of a radio. Again, I would recommend if you want something for your AM locals, a few distant stations I will mention during the day come in pretty well. But at night, if you play around with the tuner, again, I would recommend 2 if you want, but I'm just going to say this right now. Let's take a little walk. Please save your hassle and just get the ICF P26 or get the Reticus, because honestly, you're going to save yourself a headache if you want another radio where you want DXing. However, for FM, go for it. If you want to play around with the FM dial and pick up a couple long distance stations, I would recommend it. The only negative I have besides the AM DXing is just the hassle of the speaker. I mean, the speaker is okay, but if it had more bass like the ICF P26, wouldn't have an issue. The only reason why I can tolerate the speaker of the Reticus is because the Reticus is a good receiver. So, $6 is what you get and what you pay for. So, with that, I'm going to wrap up this review. So thank you all very much for watching. I hope I informed you all of the quality of the radio. When to try your $6, try your $6. You're not really wasting money. You are getting a good quality receiver in terms of your local stations and a few distant FM stations. So thank you all for watching, and until the next one, please take care.